Hello, this is Lorian Locke from the Crystallian Bureau of Labor Statistics, here to read a report about the economic status and unemployment rate among champions from Runeterra. Now, Runeterra is a sort of hemispheric region on a planet that includes two continents, Valoran and Shurima, along with the Serpent Isles, Ionia, and a myriad of islands in the area around these continents. It seems to be composed of isolated regions with their own internal self-sustaining local economies, such as research and development, military and mercenary enterprises, or enclaves of spiritual monks and martial artists, if you can call that an economy. The only real semblance of a global economy comes from the Empire of Noxus, who has reached into Ionia, Shurima, and large sections of Valoran. We will go over what this means later in the report. Now, what is a champion? A champion seems like an official position or title in Runeterra, a sort of prestige status that denotes fighting willingness and ability. Not just raw strength, but also magical prowess, supportive abilities, but all sort of things that relate to combat. The champion status seems to be given out by some sort of government or Illuminati type body called the League of Legends. And while the title does seem to be a high status, this League of Legends does not pay its champions, so the title does not come with employment. There also seems to be a slowdown in the crowning of new champions. When the League started in 2009, all the way to 2013, new champions were announced about every 2 weeks. Now it seems a good year if the League releases 4 champions. This governing body has surmised this has been related to falling economic status of the League or the region. Now that we have defined a champion and given the background, we can get into some numbers. Okay. The population of Runeterran champions is 168 for this survey. We are counting 164 of them. Of that 164, 128 are working age adults, and a whopping 63 are unemployed, which makes the unemployment rate among champions 49.2. This number is alarming and higher than any country we have on Earth. I have never seen a region, big or small, with such high unemployment, and it's only my first day. It is quite sad to see so many of these adults who can hold jobs and have combat experience or training not have them. Furthermore, in our survey, we found that 23% of those unemployed previously had employment and lost or left employment, which could be a symptom of a lowering economy where there are less job positions available, which is never a good sign. Of the champions that are employed, we observe a majority of them have jobs in the military or combat fields. This is, of course, in line with our observations that champion are given that title for fighting ability. A lot of these combat employment opportunities seem to come from the Empire of Noxus, who, as we said before, has territories in Ionia, Shurima, and their capital city in Valoran. Noxus seems to be the only sort of contributor to any sense of a global economy in Runeterra, as we see evidence of them spreading their culture and trade around to all of their territories. They buy weapons from Piltover and Zon, weapons like firearms and chemical weapons, and their empire allows for a vast trade network, not too dissimilar to empires we've seen on Earth or Crystallia. This trade network allows food from farming towns to be traded for goods not usually obtained in said towns to supply and feed the entire empire. They have a vast industry, mostly centered around war, and even capable of travel, as we see champions from noble houses traveling to far-off regions and residents of captured territories being fully integrated into the Noxian Empire. The Empire also creates jobs. In fact, in the region of Ionia, who boasts very high unemployment, we see a lot of its champions employed because of the Noxian, for lack of a better word, invasion of Ionia. We at the Bureau do not advocate for invasions or war crimes, but it does make jobs, so good job, Noxus, I think. It is also in our findings that there are groups of people whom most of its population in champions do not take any sort of jobs, such as the Darkin, the Voidlings, and Demons. It's recommended perhaps to promote government programs to reach out to these populations to encourage them to join the workforce. Runeterra and their governments are terribly underutilizing a potential demon workforce, which they could employ as lawyers or government workers, much like they do on Earth. There is one group in which we have encouraging findings. The nature-loving Yordles actually have a surprising 75% employment rate, which for Runeterra is superb. Perhaps these Yordles have a strong cultural work ethic that can be studied or further investigated. There also seems, as a general non-sanctioned observation, a look of happiness among Yordles that had employment. They seemed much more jolly and whimsical than those without jobs, which is usually the opposite. Perhaps we can spread this culture they have with others around Runeterra to employ the employment numbers and happiness. There are also areas in Runeterra with no semblance of an economy at all. The Shadow Isles, the Freljord, and the Void don't seem to have any sort of industry to speak of. If those regions want to capitalize, this governing body recommends possibly opening up tourism as an option. For example, skiing in the Freljord, or I guess sightseeing in the Shadow Isles, maybe visiting undead relatives. Please just don't take another dip into the water of life. The economic... excuse me. The overall economic outlook on Runeterran champions is not great. Even with Noxus making jobs, there seems to be not enough employment or interest among champions to take them. With Noxus being the only semblance of a global economy, if Noxus were to fall, their vast network would as well, leaving trade to the monarchy of Bilgewater and the oligarchy of Piltover to pick up the slack. But without a war engine to feed, this body wonders if either has much interest in trade. If Noxus fails or succeeds in their conquest, putting an end to the war economy, it might spell disaster, with more and more jobs being lost. One can only hope new jobs will sprout in its place, but considering the unemployment under a war economy, one is left to wonder about the economic future of Runeterra. With these observations, the Crystallian Bureau of Labor Statistics has to question this governing body, this League of Legends, on their criteria for selecting champions as well as their motives. As not only are 49.2% of them unemployed, a lot of them with questionable moral and character standing, but 11% of them are retired and a whopping 5% are children. These champions are far from paragons of society, and if there's supposed to be some kind of Avengers initiative activating when a global threat appears, with over 168 of them, it's hard to justify the use of what is effectively child soldiers. The League of Legends can grant any champion status without any sort of parental care or therapy. Perhaps there is economic opportunity in making a sort of Xavier school for children tortured by Noxus, or something akin to that. Moving on. This survey was conducted by Lorian Locke over the course of 3 hours on behalf of the Crystallian Bureau of Labor Statistics. If you like this video, please check out Any Austin. He has a whole playlist of videos like this, and he has a Patreon. If you want to support me, please leave a comment letting me know if you like this video or have any advice to improve this format, or if you want to see more videos like this. Thank you so much for watching.